So, welcome to the second day of IFA Con, and we are kicking today off with our panel on. Excuse me, looking that way. I have questions on my screen that way. I'm not looking away from you all. I just have two screens on the go. And our panel is From Familiars to Monsters, exploring all the creatures and companions fantasy has to offer. And I have some incredible guests who've managed to join us tonight. And myself and Steve are also in the UK, so we are also an hour ahead at least. So, I know Steve is. So yeah, we're kind of late evening joining you here. So, right. So what I'm going to ask first is our authors to introduce themselves, flash a book at you, and I'd like you to tell us, everybody else. See, I've already lost my page. A brief description of either a monster or a companion that you have written about. So, who are you? What are your books? I realize that might be a huge list, so I will give you another chance at the end. And give us a monster or companion you have written about. We'll go around the screen as they currently are to start with. So, Kay Andrews.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Katie Andrews, or Katie. I've written several books, poetry, short stories, fantasy. I've got The Assassin of Grins and Secrets. It's a dark fantasy. There's a blind tiger in this one, who's the companion to the MC. I've got Hills of Heather and Bone, which was the Spiffbo 9 finalist. So there's a spiteful chicken named Morhenna that follows the main couple. So, and then I've got my novella, Fantasy Western Wild Skies, and the companion to Dale is Bean the Dragon. So those are just some of the ones I've written about. But yeah. Was there anything else I needed to add to that? I don't know.
No, that's brilliant. Liz, would you like to go up next?
Sure. So I'm Liz Delton. I write epic and cozy fantasy, and I always like to sneak in a creature or a pet in all my books. So one of my favorites is Emra, the dragonette from the Legends of Gold and Silver series. I also have a very snarky flying squirrel in my Realm of Camellia series, who's a like trickster spirits kind of pet companion. And yeah, that's those are my books. I also have my cozy fantasy series has a semi-magical cat familiar that reappears in multiple books that span several centuries.
Thank you. I love the sound of flying squirrel.
Yeah.
S.L. Rowland.
Hi, I am. Oh, I go by Steven, but since there's
Stephen.
two of us here, you can just call me SL. I write the Tales of Adria cozy fantasy series. Cursed Cocktails is the first one, and the most recent is There Be Dragons Here. I also write lit RPG, but my cozy fantasies they all have animal companions, and one of my favorite is the Spirit Flocks from Cursed Cocktails. We just did a plushie of that one. It's super cute.
Amazing. Thank you. And Steve.
Hello, my name's Steve McHugh. I'm the author of 30 something books. I forget off the top of my head. Mostly urban fantasy, historical fantasy, science fiction, and epic fantasy. I have a whole bunch of different companions in different books. My favorite one is Remy, who is a foxman in the Helicon Chronicles. He's about 3.5 foot tall. And he swears at everything bigger than him, which is everything. Carries two swords and likes to stab things.
Amazing. And I think I've landed here. Obviously, this is about them, but just so where I've come from is obviously I'm the author of The Skin and the Pact, which involves sulky, seals, and a lot of other companions, including Core, the cormorant, and the Gates of Hope trilogy, which has the Moonhounds. So, along with others. So, companions are things I like, very fond of. So, I'm looking forward to hearing what our authors have to say about this today. So, I have preloaded them with questions. So, I am going to go in a random order. I'm not going to always go in a circle. I'm sorry to confuse the issue here. So we will start with Liz this time. What role do animals and mythical beasts play in fantasy, in your opinion, that humans can't?
I do love this question. I feel like creatures and beasts and pets even make like are a huge percentage of what makes fantasy fantasy. Of course, we have magic as a component of like what makes something fantasy, but I feel like creatures are a huge percentage um, of, the kind of world building and they're even, part of the characters. So I feel like they play like one of the biggest roles in fantasy as a genre. And in my books, they're also for conflict and companionship and um, whether there's like creatures that are attacking or creatures that are friends, they're like a huge part of what makes fantasy fantasy, I'd say.
Amazing. Okay. Steve.
I agree with Liz. Yeah. No,
I
I
need
mean,
more than that.
yeah, they do. They're a big part of fantasy, of all fantasies, all different types of fantasy. And I think that they often give a really good different point of view of a companion to the main humanoid characters. Um, I think it's, when you are a 3.5 foot tall fox, your point of view of the world is very different to a sorcerer who can throw lightning bolts at people. And your perception of threat is very different when you have a sword and they have godlike powers. Um, so I think that that's quite, they offer a very different kind of point of view of looking at everything around them.
Brilliant. Katie?
Yeah. So for me, like beast or monsters in particular, I think that can reveal a lot of like the world itself, either like cultural, regionally, just how they play a part with like the ecosystems and the characters interacting with it. Especially if it's like a creature that's not supposed to be there. Like that's really cool just to see how like characters react to that. How does the world react to that? It just adds another layer of world building to me that I always love. Especially if like are the monsters domesticated? Are they just running around? Like what's happening? So I think it plays like a huge part, and I think really is what makes fantasy fantasy. Um, so yeah, love a good monster, love a good fictional beast.
Brilliant. SL. To avoid
I
the
think,
Steve and Steve issue.
yeah. I think there's so many roles that the animal companions and monsters can play. Like one of my favorites is comic relief. Like an annoying little cat or creature that is constantly at odds with the MC. And also like the bond that the main character can have with an animal can like show a different side of that character that they might not show with other humans or people. But I think my favorite is just like deeper world building and like being able to show like the different regions and maybe they're cute or maybe they look like super intimidating. Like you can just bring out so much with how you choose to describe them.
I think comic relief is brilliant. And as you guys said, it gives that world, it gives that depth, it gives us a different perspective on characters. They do a lot. I'd agree. I think you brought some really brilliant points out there. So it was in the chat. It's coming. What is your favorite non-humanoid character? Not necessarily one you've written, one you have read. Either companion or monster. So obviously we're supposed to be covering monsters as well here. So I'm throwing that out there. Your favorite might be a monster. And what makes them your favorite? And we'll go to Katie first this time.
I'll do two. Classic for me is Bill the Pony. Just he's there. Movie wise and book wise. Like he's a standard feature of the Fellowship. And when he has to get sent home, I know that was really hard for Sam. But just like build a pony, just his little life in the books, it was really fun. And then monster wise, my friend Sarah Omer wrote these meat eating Pegasus. And so one in her book is called Mercy, and he's just very volatile, but he's really fun in like relation to the main character. So, Pegasus, whatever you call the plural, they're always docile and cute, and these ones can eat people. So it's a little bit fun just to see that kind of monster in that kind of world building. So he was fun just to read.
Brilliant. Liz.
So the first one that came to my mind was Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I know that's not a book, but pop culture. Because he's like, even in that world, he was kind of like a mythical creature because all the other sky bisons were extinct. And he's not only like their method of safe transport, but he's also a little bit of comic relief. And I'll throw in a literary one real quick, which is Biscuit or Biscus from Rachel Renner's Gilded Blood series. He is major comic relief. He's a like tattoo familiar kind of brought to life. Got a lot of Biscus love in the
I was
chat
going to say there is a lot of love for Biscus in the chat. There is serious agreement with Biscus. I love Biscus as well, I have to admit.
Yeah. So those are my picks.
SL.
I've got a few of them. Princess
That's fine.
Donut
We've got time.
from Dungeon Crawler Carl. I had Build a Pony, but I also Treebeard. I'd say he's more of like a monster, I guess. But he was always one of my favorite characters from Lord of the Rings. And Rocky from Project Hail Mary. Just love that little guy.
Okay. We've had a lot of which ones you like, and I feel like I might push some of you for a bit more of why. Steve?
Someone already said Appa, and I love Appa.
Appa is wonderful.
And spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the nearly 20-year-old TV show, but when he was kidnapped, genuinely yelled at the screen, like properly full on, no, just no, not having that happen. Thank you very much. Great character. He doesn't even really say very much in the whole show. He just makes noises, but he's awesome, and the show doesn't really feel the same without him in it. And the other one I put is a librarian who from Discworld, who says "ook." That's all the librarian says, and you know exactly what he means every single time he says "ook." And he's funny without really meaning to be. Yeah, the librarian is even the luggage as well. You could say from Discworld and Death of Rats, and there's a bunch of them in Discworld. But yeah, I love librarian.
And as you say, both of those two have that minimal words. I mean, there was a lot of love for Biscus earlier, but even Biscus's range of words isn't necessarily huge. But the emotions that can be conferred from what everything else they do in all these Build a Pony clearly didn't have any lines. Unless I've missed those. But it's again, the way they're written makes us love them regardless of anything else involved in them. So yeah, I can see that. And I do also love Appa. I haven't seen all the series, but every time my son watches it, it's just like, yeah, I can see that. I quite like my own Appa. So we've talked about some of the things that roles play or animals play. And I think you've touched on it a little bit here in the reasons that you have chosen some of these characters. So what attributes make a great character? And there's some interesting ones coming in the chat as well. Deadly monsters, Groots, lots of Groots, loads of Groots. So, but yeah, what attributes make a great companion? sticking specifically to companions at this point. So what makes these companions the ones that we love? I mean, obviously, please feel free to jump in if you've got something and you want to go first on this, or jump into each other. But oh, there's one there. Krakens. Can I just add that maybe at this point I should point out that we are releasing the Kraken as the secret word that you need to be collecting this week from this panel. So I've said it. It's there. We are releasing a Kraken. Okay. And now we come back from the Kraken to great attributes for a fantasy companion. Does anyone want to start us off?
Yeah, I was gonna say for a companion, and kind of our previous question and kind of made me think of this, they don't necessarily need to speak, which is fun. They can be a friend or like a confidant, even when the creature can't converse with the main character. So I feel like S.L. Rowland said earlier about letting the characters they can say things to creatures that they wouldn't say to other humans. I feel like the creature or companion as like a listener is like a big attribute, I would say, and like a sounding board almost. And I just feel like the personality can shine through whether they are a speaking creature or not, through their actions or if they are a speaking creature. Uh, so I feel like their like sounding board ability and like just their personalities can be so different depending on what type of creature they are. Like, are they like a mischievous cat, or are they like a creature companion could be a scary monster too, but maybe they're not so scary to the main character that they're companion to. We don't know.
I like
I,
that.
I agree with that, with what Liz said. Not to talk about my own work again, but in my most recent series,
Do it.
The Assembly, it's about vampires, and the main character's name is Miles Watson. He's a Scottish vampire, and he has a dog called Church. And Church is a Doberman who's been genetically enhanced with vampire blood. And so she is super smart and really big and strong and likes biting people, and or bad people anyway. And she doesn't speak, but he knows what she's saying by her body, the way she moves, the way she is with people, and she is a sounding board for his ideas. And I wanted to write her like a person who has a dog talks to their dog as if they're expecting their dog to talk back to them. Except this dog understands everything that the person's saying. And then I got to write a chapter from her point of view, and she's very sweary. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty spot on with especially characters, companions that don't talk. They are a sounding board. They are a way in which the main character can have someone with them without having to have someone talk to and have a conversation with. They still can talk. They can. It's otherwise it's just one person the whole book, and they don't have any partner or anything. And I think that they play a really, really vital role in doing that if it's a loner kind of character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Agree.
kind of what Steve was saying of, the companionship, even if that animal is slightly not nice, can be like a fun kind of dynamic. So like in Hills of Heather and Bone, the chicken does not like the main character. It likes her husband, which was roughly based off of the emu from Useless Farm, who Karen the emu, she does not like the owner and she likes the owner's husband. So just like having that, it's a commonplace animal, but chickens can have personalities. I'm a little afraid of them, which is why I included it. But just maybe to have like that dynamic of this thing does not like me, but we're still having it along on our journey as some sort of comfort. It's not actively trying to kill us, but it could. But it's still there as like maybe a link to home or just like an old life, which is what kind of more Henna does in Hills of Heather and Bone. So I like animal companions that aren't necessarily super fond of the people they're with, or creatures that way that have just a little bit of snark, I guess is the best word I can think of. Whereas on the flip side, for me and Wild Skies, like Bean is Dale's only friend, really, is his dragon. So just like, how can we give some more characteristic to a reptile, which normally doesn't have a whole lot of expressions and it doesn't talk, but still wanted it to be like a fun, almost puppy-ish kind of thing, just to add a little bit of that character relief and comic relief in some long haul flights that Dale does. So I love like when books in general can do that, and so I've really tried to do that in my books for both the commonplace animals and the ones that are like a little bit more fantastical.
I love Morhenna. I'm Team Morhenna here as well. So SL.
Yeah, I have a couple. Like the first, I think like humor is a great attribute. Like I mentioned Princess Donut earlier from Dungeon Crawler Carl. Like that's a very dark world, and her like childlike personality, and the way that she seems to not let the tragic events around her like affect her. They bring some lightness into the darkness of that series. And I also think like the bond that like the protective bond that an animal companion can have with an MC, like Ghost and Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. Like there's something special about when that main character is kind of, their back is against the wall and it looks like everything's falling apart from them. And then you have that protector show up at the last minute and kind of, save the day for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways of communication and talking, and certainly it's something that I've used. I mean, my moonhounds don't talk, but they do communicate in pictures. So the biologist in me very much didn't want them to speak, but they communicate as they would see. So in that comic relief sense, so you might be in the middle of trying to do something really serious and your moonhound's busily trying to tell you it's hungry by sending you pictures of steak and things along that line, as well as other aspects. I think that there has to be a feeling of relatability between the character. I agree. I think then obviously you've mentioned lots of different ways through the connection to the past, the connection to other things as well. So yeah, I really like those answers. They're brilliant. And there's lots of people in the chat who are kind of very much getting involved with your answers and adding to them as well. If you're not scrolling through the chat, guys, there's some really good stuff to add to your comments in there as well. They're going too fast almost for me to pick them up, but I will come back to them at the end potentially. So, as we've now mentioned dogs, we've mentioned horses a couple of times, we've mentioned fantastical creatures. Which do some types of fantasy creature lend themselves better than others, or is it all about the way they're written? What do we think?
The way they're written.
Okay.
This was sort of going to be an answer to another question, but
That's
in
fine.
Dungeon Crawler Carl, there is a sex doll head called Samantha,
Right.
who is a companion.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty certain that that wouldn't work in any other book other than Dungeon Crawler Carl. Because just saying that out loud now feels like I should need to look around in case my kids are near me. It's just, no, it shouldn't work. And it does. And it's completely how it's written. So I think the companion, the shape, form of the companion matters a lot less than the writing of the companion.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely the writing is what it comes down to in the end. But I think there are like certain animals or creatures that kind of lend themselves to that a little better. Like, wolves, dragons, cats, things that people naturally, you know, pick out as their favorite animals when they're reading. You have to do a lot less heavy lifting with the writing of those types of things because there's already some sort of bond like inherently there between them because you've seen it so much in media.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd agree with that. Go on, Liz.
Yeah, I agree. It's all on how they're written. Yeah, like cats are really popular and easy to write because everybody knows how cats behave. But maybe you write something magical about them as well. So, or if you're creating characters from scratch, that is really fun because they'll be unique. Or you can, take a regular, or there's regular creatures that you make magical. In my Realm of Camellia series, I've got some foxes that are made out of light magic, and they are used to deliver messages, kind of like a Patronus. They're called sentinels, so the caster can use it to send a message. So you can use like traditional creatures in very different ways. Like I know in S.L. Rowland's Spirit Fox is based on like the nine-tailed fox, right? It's got three though. Love it.
Yeah, there's a comment in the chat that I think this does bear linking into, that some of them are easier to use in marketing than others. And I think that kind of touches on what you guys are saying. And Sydney and Katie, you mentioned before about making a lizard almost puppy-like. Tapping into those hard wiringnesses by making a creature that doesn't have the same instincts appear to have it in your book to make it more appealing, potentially.
Yeah, I kind of base that off of like I have friends who own like bearded dragons or some other like a snake, and sometimes it's like it seems almost different than like what I would expect. Like an animal, like it's cuddling up, it's like following you, and it's really excited that you're there. So I was like, a dragon could also be that because, I mean, it is almost like a large puppy, depending on how you write it. So that was really fun to do. Not all the dragons are like that, but this one in particular, because I'm like, well, what do you do with a creature that's been raised from an egg by its person? And they do kind of have like an emotional bond. That's how the dragons and their riders work in this world. So like they're still feeling off of each other, but it's still a young dragon, so it's like it's not typical like ancient wisdom. It's refined dragon. So I'm like, let's just have it a little juvenile. That'd be fun. But yeah, basically to echo what everyone's been saying, like just how a creature or companion's written, I think changes it. I mean, like, who would have thought a pile of rocks would be real fun, like a wonderful companion to have. So even like basic animals too, like that are non-magical, like a dog, a cat, just it all depends on like what is the relationship between it and the characters. Which was why I say that the chicken is spiteful. That's what I use in my marketing because I'm like, I can't think of anything else to really sell why this chicken is important. She's just got personality. But, some people really love their chickens, and I had not seen a chicken companion really in a book, so I thought that would be fun. There was one guy, I forgot his name at Dragon Con. He had like a possum for his character. It was fascinating to me because inspired like magical mage, and that's as familiar as a possum. I'm like, oh, that's fun. I'm instantly intrigued.
The
Really mundane
possum.
animal. Yes.
I think that's Bob
Yeah.
Magoo.
Yeah.
I forget what the series is
Is
called.
it the meth
Yeah.
mage? I think
Yeah,
so.
it's something like a meth wizard. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I see him at Dragon Con, he's got the
Yep.
possum shirt, and I'm like, I don't know how you have so many possum shirts, but I'm enjoying it. But yeah, so like, a possum, like something that's normal in the world, but you would not expect as a companion, I think can do just wonders for a book. Yeah, I'm seeing skunk would also be a very interesting one. I'd be low key scared of it at all times. So, because you never know what it's going to do. But yeah, it just depends on how it's all written. I think also just kind of how you as the author spin it. Like even if it's just a side character, it's just like, this is a fun part of the world.
SL, sorry, we've come round to you. I'm conscious that I don't know that you had a lot in there. So we were all talking.
What's that?
So, just checking that the types of fantasy creatures better than others. Did you have anything else to add in there?
Oh no, I was the one that started it off, wasn't I?
I think you might have, but I'm just double checking. I had a moment there. You
Yeah.
guys lost me. I was like,
I was like,
I got too involved in
yeah.
that one. Sorry, guys.
Uh,
Yeah, David Green is now off on one. He's talking about honey badgers and skunks. We've got kelpies suggested. I don't know what a lavender skunk is. I'm afraid, guys, haven't got a clue. I take it that's an American thing. And many suggestions for writing a companion goldfish. So, um, so what's the most unusual companion you have read? We are coming back to monsters, by the way. I have not forgotten the monsters, but what's the most unusual? We've touched on a few here, I think, with ones that you've come across. I mean, obviously we've touched on the inflatable head. Um, so, but so what's the one that you've kind of gone, oh, would never have thought of that?
so there's this cozy fantasy called Bard City Blues, and part of it takes place in this tavern where there's a gelatinous cube that is the dishwasher for the tavern. So I thought that was a very unique way to include that in a story.
I'm fascinated. Do they put the dishes like in and just keep hold of the edge?
Yeah,
I mean, how
you
do
put the dishes in. I think there was a skeleton perhaps that was also worked there. They put the dishes in and it kind of just cleans them and puts them out.
amazing. Anyone else have a burning urge to go next?
I'm gonna have to shout out to Melinda in the chat who just reminded me of one because I was having a really hard time coming up with one. The
Yes.
Bob, the sourdough starter from Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. Um, it's a companion. It is a
Yes.
sourdough starter, and it is sentient.
I have recommended that book to so many people off the basis of that sourdough starter. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a brilliant. Yeah.
Thanks,
Um,
Melinda.
Steve,
Uh, see, I've already said Samantha the sex doll head. I
you've
kind of shot
kind
my
of
shot a
preempted
lot
us
earlier
there.
in the chat, didn't I? However, this isn't a book, but I'm going to go with BMO from Adventure Time because he is a sentient Game Boy, basically, and I love BMO and Adventure Time in general. But yeah, no, I would never have come up with sentient Game Boy in a million years. But then I wouldn't have come up with sentient sex doll head either. So I guess I'm 0 for 2 on the sentient weird thing meter.
Yeah, I mean they're both pretty special, aren't they?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, in completely different ways. Do not get them confused.
I'll try not to.
Yeah, no.
I think I've read one with a potato, someone carrying a potato around, uh, which was a lit RPG where there is a potato involved, which is sort of a companion, I seem to remember, which sort of stands out to me as a bizarre thing I never thought I'd see somebody carrying around or having as a companion. Katie?
Um, it, it's a cross for me. It's a tie between Hootie from Owl House and then Castle from Howl's Moving Castle. Like we've got sentient house. Like oh, he's just fire who comments on things. So those two are really fun for me.
Okay. What makes them?
Oh, you're right. Hootie's more comic relief in the sense that he can be real dumb. And then Calcifer for me, just because he's very sarcastic, at least in the movie. So those, I really, again, it's the humorous aspect, I think, that really draws me to them for different reasons.
Interesting the amount of humor actually in our choice of strange companions here. When you look at the thing, it's clearly a recurrent theme. So although and I know I didn't throw it in there, but can you think of a strong use of a companion outside of humor that you like? Sorry, this is thrown slightly stage left, but bearing in mind how heavy the field of humor is, I just wondered if I could pull one that is outside of that range from you all.
Hmm,
I think the thing is that a lot of these books are either
that's a
inherently very
good
silly,
question.
and
Mhm,
therefore they have very silly companions, or they're really, really dark, and they
mhm.
need some kind of some humor to it. Um, I don't think Princess Donut would work if the whole book was really slapstick kind of silly. She is a sort of almost well, she's the comic relief almost, not quite, because she gets quite sad and her story arc goes very dark in later books. But I think a lot of them are they're either silly books or they are really dark books and they need some levity. Um, or it's dealing with a serious topic and they need some levity. Discworld was really good with that because a lot of the books deal with really serious issues. But then you have a librarian saying ook, and that kind of pops the little bubble of tension. And I think that's probably why they're so geared towards comic relief.
Ones that you remember and love. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
They the they've picked up my potato comment. My potato comment has appeared in the chat. Um, Castle of a Thousand Doors. There we go. Thank you very much. Um, but yeah, I mean, think we looked at. I kind of don't want to touch on the last question I've got listed for you, but I guess sometimes when the companion is not comic relief, it serves a different purpose
yeah.
and it can serve a different aspect. As you say, if it's a very dark book, that comic relief potentially needs to be there. But there are other occasions where sometimes, I mean, I dare I say, never-ending story.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Sorry, but it's that it's still. But your immediate reaction, though, that's the thing, isn't it? It's that
Yeah,
it creates a different moment, and we've very much gone down the line that companions are a positive, happy, comforting thing in that respect, almost.
So I
Um,
just to jump in, I do have like a point about non-comedic companions
mm,
that are not the horse in Neverending Story. They're not going down that avenue just yet. Another avenue is, that's not comedic is kind of usefulness.
mm.
So some companions can be useful. I was gonna just trying to think of like a non-funny companion, and I thought of the Weary Dragon Inn series, the main character kind of solves mysteries and she gets a companion and it's a dog, but it's not just a dog. It is technically a magical creature. Um, and it helps her solve these mysteries. So, and it can't speak or anything, but it has abilities. And so, there are creatures that are kind of help problem solve. So like even dragons sometimes, even if they can't speak or whatever, they are probably helping solve problems like the problem of getting from point A to point B. Um, or, just a regular horse is a problem solver, not necessarily um, if they're sentient or not. So that is enough. We do have one more that avenue we can go down before the sad character development avenue.
Yeah,
yes,
I
as a comment.
was
Go on.
I was thinking of Game of Thrones and Daenerys' dragons. They're more of a symbol of power, and they're cute when they're babies, but once they start growing up and have to be fed, they do some pretty bad things to like the local townspeople and like the farmers, because they're hungry. Um, so yeah, they're not always cute and cuddly.
No? Yeah, I'd agree with that. And that segues us beautifully, doesn't it? Into taking those companions and them effectively becoming a monster over the course of that series. What makes a fantasy monster? We have to discuss monsters as well. And I feel like this potentially could be a quite a long discussion on this bit. What makes a great fantasy monster? What sort of things make a really great fantasy monster?
I think it's the threat of like what they can do. Um, because a lot of them are, they're pretty scary and intimidating in a lot of ways. So like you're already kind of on edge around them. And, if they have, magical powers or something along those lines, like it's definitely like you don't know what you're dealing with. It's not like you see just a dog and you're like, okay, maybe I can scare it away or something. It's like it's something beyond your realm of control.
Yeah, I like that. So you can't control it, and it's that unknown. Katie?
Yeah, kind of what SL said of like being helpless to stop something. So very much like Daenerys's dragons. Like if she's not there, like the it could be so much worse. And because she also has the power, it's weaponized. So that definitely makes it more scary of like we can see it and there's a very fine line between the restraint and control of what it could do. Um, but yeah, the unpredictability and the danger aspect, I think, is what really makes it good. But also, if it's a really intelligent monster and it's not just hunting because it wants to eat or it's hungry or any of the base instincts, but if it's also very intelligent, that can also make it scary. Like it's making a choice to go. We don't know necessarily why it's doing this. I think the intelligence and sentience can also add that level of kind of fear for characters in a world. Like Smaug is intelligent and he does the things he does for a reason. We know it's greed and everything, but the fact that he can make those choices and it doesn't have to be like, oh, just gonna go do this because I am hungry or tired or whatever. So I think, yeah, intelligence for me adds that other layer of scariness.
Yeah, there's lots of comments about not moving right, being faster, being stronger, being
Mm-hmm.
better. Liz?
I have to agree with SL about threat with a monster because you can even have the monster's threat level be present before the monster itself is present. Like you could read a whole book where you don't even see the monster, but it's mentioned. It's, you can see like the destruction that it's done. And so that threat of the monster kind of builds even when it's not even on screen. And I feel like that's something fun uh, to kind of have in a story. Um, and then I'll comment on the intelligence level. I feel like both intelligent monsters and like not like kind of sentient monsters can be equally terrifying because you've got Smaug who's like calculating, but then you can have like a Titan kind of monster, like Daenerys's dragons who are, I mean, I guess those are probably intelligent, I guess I'll say. Um, so you could have like a non kind of sentient creature that has no like thought process whatsoever, and it's just obliterating heroes left and right. And so I feel like those can be equally terrifying, depending on where they are. But I feel like the threat of like lurking monsters before you even meet them is really fun to kind of read about.
Yeah, I mean, it almost touches on horror, doesn't it? The threat
Yeah.
of the unknown, the threat of what's there,
Yes.
that overlap in the speculative fiction of a monster that
Yeah.
is the unknown is almost more scary than the known.
Yeah. What's it
And the
gonna do?
unknown you can't reason with.
Yeah.
That you mentioned, that lack of ability to have any intelligence, you can't reason with it.
Mhm.
That's a different kind of scary. Steve?
I think it's a really open question because there's
I
quite a
know,
lot of things that,
deliberately.
yeah, I know, but there's a lot of things that make great monsters, and it really
Mhm.
depends on the kind of monster. Ancient Greece has hundreds of amazing monsters, each of them designed to terrify the people the stories were told about. They would, the Minotaur and the Hydra and all that kind of stuff. And I think having monsters that are just so much bigger than the hero's capability that they have to overcome them. Even if, I don't necessarily mean in size, but just smarts, power, whatever it is. I think makes it helps make a great fantasy monster. I mean, there's it, apart from dragons, because dragons are cool, and everybody knows dragons are cool. Um, well, there are always in loads and loads of books just so many monsters where you don't even see the monster, like you were saying. You don't really see much about it until much later in the book. You just feel the after effects of whatever this monster's done. In Aliens, you don't see the xenomorph very much until halfway through the film, by which point it's murdering everybody and there's nothing any of them can do about it. I think when you're pitching, the power dynamic is really important between hero and monster. If you've got a really, really powerful hero and a monster who's just like a dude, that's not an interesting monster because the monster's not going to last more than 5 seconds. So you kind of have to ramp up your power level of your hero with the power level of your monster. So the monster's always above the hero. Which is why Alien, should I say, works great because it's one thing that can't be killed by a bunch of unarmed people. And Aliens works great because it's a whole bunch of armed people who can't kill a lot more of these things because there's so many of them, like a swarm. So I think that's why we like things like knights in shining armor fighting dragons, because they're basically running towards a dragon wearing cookware and having to fight this dragon. And there's no way it should win. And they win because of intelligence or they luck or whatever it is. But yeah, I think that's my rambling answer to that one. Is the monster always has to be of greater value at something than the hero, because the dynamic has to be the hero is, if not scared, at least apprehensive and doesn't know how they're going to win, and they have to figure it out. They're a puzzle, and I think they make the best monsters.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, kind of what Steve was saying, the monster you don't see. I also love like possession monsters, like where it's like fused to the character or a character. It's like you don't know when it's going to take over. Your body's being used to do actions that you normally wouldn't do. Like Venom and Eddie, like they have that, there's a little bit of fun, but it's also equally terrifying. Like, oh, this thing has taken over my body and I can't escape it and it's doing horrible things. So, that fear of like, am I going to lose myself? Is this monster going to take over me? So the possession element is also kind of, I think, a good one for certain monsters.
And to respond to that, whilst I remember, in cases of possession like Eddie, the monster also has to have a weakness. They have to. They have to have a weakness that can be exploited. Otherwise, because Venom's so much more powerful than Eddie, because Eddie's just a dude. And Venom is the symbiote who can bond with things and is, has super strength and all this kind of stuff. So there has to be a way in which to defeat it that the hero either figures out or can somehow exploit to keep the possessor from winning outright. Otherwise, it's again super unbalanced.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you to describe it in that way, because it also brings to mind, my husband is an absolute loves police procedurals, monster and that sort of thing. And when you've got a monster style killer, you often don't see them. You don't know what they are, but the fear of what they're doing, the fact that they're a step ahead, the fact that that intelligent aspect, that's still an aspect of storytelling that we're talking about needing to include in fantasy, to have that humanized monster a step ahead, not found, not recognized, causing the devastation, causing the trouble, and being intelligent. It's a sort of storytelling skill regardless of what the monster is. That's almost the way it feels hearing you all describe it. They're unknown, they're extra kind of. He's watched a Scandinavian thing where you're literally watching this person going, is this the monster? Oh my God, they're awful. But are they the monster? And that kind of clever aspect where it's hidden from the reader as well as the character. I think when it's hidden from the character as well, not just the reader, it can be really well done.
And you can make anything into a monster.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what it is. There just has to be a power dynamic that the people are scared or the people are whatever. Jaws, a great white shark. A great white shark is not intelligent enough to do half the stuff that Jaws actually does. But um, but you're terrified of it because back in the 70s, people were clearly stupid and they didn't realize that sharks didn't do all this stuff. Um, and obviously we know better now. But yeah, if you take something, it doesn't matter what it is, an animal, a Galactus, a symbiote, whatever, as long as people are afraid of it, you can make it into a monster.
Segued beautifully into that next question. Could companion creatures also make great monsters? Oh, Steve, you are just
Yeah, I'm
slipping
killing
those
it.
straight through. You're killing
Yeah,
it.
on
You'd think
form.
we'd done panels before here, wouldn't you? So, Steve and I have been on numerous panels together before, usually in person. So,
Yeah.
right. So, yeah. So, can companion creatures also make great monsters? Steve just suggested like sharks being transferred, and we've already mentioned Daenerys's dragons taking that turn from cute and cozy. So, obviously, those two give a good example. Would you like to expand on that as to why maybe that works so well?
I can. I've got one. Gremlins. You got
Oh,
Gremlins,
yeah.
and they're evil, and you got Gizmo, and he's cute,
Yes.
and one makes the other. So there's a link between the two. And when they're Gremlins, all bets are off. That they will absolutely ruin your life. But Gizmo's cute and sweet and lovely. So yeah, you can have they're the same thing, just slightly different versions of.
Yeah,
Well,
there are kind of two that come to mind for me. The one is when you have, a monster that's really cute when it's like a young, baby or whatever, and then you know that it's gonna to grow into this like monstrous being. One of my books, I have a dire pig that the main character rescues, and but it's going to in a few years, it's going to be like 2,000 pounds and like capable of just destroying people if it wanted to. Um, but I also think when the characters that are able to transform into monsters. I was watching One Piece recently, and Tony Chopper is this cute little reindeer, but he can like turn into this gigantic monstrous thing like on a whim. Um, so like you can have both even at the same time.
yeah, I missed that question. Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think absolutely. I feel like you can go either way, a companion that can turn into a monster later, or a monster that becomes a companion. So you could befriend, a super dangerous dragon. It made me think of the villains panel from yesterday because, you might watch a hero turn into a villain, or you could alternatively watch a normal creature turn into a monster. Um, oh man, I had an example and it just went completely out of my brain. But in one of my series, I have these like spirits that turn into like horrific like shadow creatures. And I feel like transformation is a big thing that we do in books. So, the hero that goes to a villain, or, a regular creature who turns into a monster. I feel like we love a good transformation. So I feel like we'll read either way. It was Howl from Howl's Moving Castle was my example. So we've got Howl who has his monstrous side, and but we still love him. So
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's Goose from Captain Marvel, the Flurkin. Like it looks like a regular cat, but everyone else knows that it's a terrifying monster. So you have that fun, like cozy aspect of it's a cat. It's normal. But at a moment's notice it could eat your face. So I do love that where like the main character is either like oblivious to it, or there's like enough trust built, like this thing's not going to hurt me. It could, but it won't. So I think that's a fun dynamic to kind of play off of. Um, yeah, I think kind of what Liz was saying of like also companions that can turn monstrous can be like a really emotionally charged subplot of a book, whether or not it's from corruption, curse, something else, depending on the relationship between the character and said companion, that can be really hard to either make that choice of like, do I need to end this thing before it ends me, or is there a way to like save my companion from whatever it's becoming, or is this like change part of its natural life cycle or something? So those can be like interesting elements to add to a story. If you need another kind of subplot to add danger and tension, I think the transformation of something from not dangerous to dangerous can be a good one to add.
DM, I run 2 Dungeons and Dragons groups, and I can assure you that every monster is perceived as adoptable and convertible by enough people. Honestly. And this, at least, yeah, David, don't you even say it. He's in one of my groups. So, they literally will try and adopt anything. Doesn't matter if it's a monster. Doesn't matter what it is. If they will, there is a belief that this monstrous creature can be good. To the extent, actually, that they've currently got about 10 things following them round. But there doesn't mean they're not going to turn on them, because obviously that, again, you've got this kind of, it's ridiculous. But yeah, we want that dynamic that you've mentioned. I think that dynamic of threat that the companion could go badly wrong, or that you could save your companion. I think that's, they're all really good points there.
I've thought of one that's a bit silly.
Go on.
Anakin Skywalker. He's a companion to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then he becomes Darth Vader and kills him.
I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, but he does become a monster, technically.
He becomes a monster. No one thinks of Darth Vader as a man. They think of Darth Vader as this demonic entity who just murders everybody, because that's what he is, essentially. So, yeah, he's Obi-Wan Kenobi's companion, and then he turns evil, and he kills him. Spoilers, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw the last question at you guys before we kind of round this up. And I did pre-warn the panel this question was coming, because I know it's probably the most contentious question of the night. And there's an entire website dedicated to this. And I am guilty, because I have killed. But should the dog ever die?
No. I want people to keep buying my books. So, no, I'm not killing the dog.
So you're not killing the dog for pure marketing reasons?
Well, also because people email me constantly and say, before I start your first vampire book, does the dog survive? And I have to say, yes, of course the dog survives. If everybody else in the book dies, it will just be the dog sat there for a chapter. I'm not killing the dog. It doesn't matter what happens.
I have had to send the same message to people before they start Gates of Hope. I have had to say there will be serious jeopardy.
Yeah. But I've seen Turner and Hooch. I know what that did to the box office. And Tom Hanks said, "You never kill the dog," and I trust in Tom Hanks.
Well, this is something that I'm about to find out because I'm writing a cozy horror, and the premise is that the main character becomes a necromancer to bring back his dog. And so I guess we'll see if I can pull it off.
Sounds like
bringing the dog back.
Frankenweenie.
Yeah. Bringing the dog back is fine. I think. I think that would be
die
okay.
first, though. You know.
Yeah. So long as you don't murder the dog at the beginning of the book and the dog's already dead. John Wick, the dog at the beginning.
That question. Katie, what were you saying? Yeah, I lost you a bit there. Have we lost her again? Or is that just me?
I think she's froze.
She's frozen. Liz, did you want to jump in while we're waiting for Katie to come back?
I'll say not in my books.
The S.L's book reminds me of Frankenweenie.
There's Katie.
I don't know. My Wi-Fi's not good. Oh, I heard someone. Okay, sorry. I'm behind. The dog has broken my internet, yes. No, yeah. So I don't know if it came through. SL's book reminds me of Frank and Weenie. Just he brings the dog back. It's cute. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I don't want the dog or cat or animal companion to ever die. But I think if it's done with purpose and not just for maybe emotional shock, it's good. I was with the trilogy. I was like, there's a moment something has to die in this scene, and I was like, well, we won't kill the one that seems like the obvious choice. So I was like, we won't do that. And then there were some moments in Hills of Heather and Bone. I'm like, I don't know how this chicken's going to survive, but I think she has to. So I don't know. I've not personally done it, but I can think of times like where it's done well. Like it's still sad and it's hard, but they've been like good moments. I don't know if Hedwig dying was necessary, but in Harry Potter, that's the one I can think of. And then there's the horse that we do not talk about.
I'm very conscious on time, but I also want Liz to have a chance to.
Sorry.
All right. I'll just real quick say, not in my books, not yet. I don't plan on any. Because I honestly have a hard time killing off people, but I think I would have an even harder time killing off a creature. I feel like that's even more difficult to write or read, really. But it can be done for sure. Just not by me.
Okay. So I think we need to kind of round up on the time. And is that okay for us to round up? I'm conscious of time and give everybody one last chance to shout out your awesomeness and where they can find your fabulous creatures that you've discussed. So we'll go round in the screen order. Katie?
Okay. Well, all my books can be purchased wherever books are sold. I have an Etsy shop for people in the US. You can buy physical copies. I have a lovely hardback edition of Hills of Heather and Bones if you want a little bit of pretty book in your life. Yeah, so, and again, I've got poetry, I've got short stories, I got my novels in ebook and physical format. So yeah, and I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter, usually under K.E. Andrews or K.E. Andrews author.
Liz?
You can check out lizdelton.com. I have a direct bookshop that is opening up internationally. And my next upcoming projects are the Tea Shop at the Edge of the Wood, which is launching on Kickstarter at the end of April. You can go follow that now. There is a semi-magical cat companion. And the next Kickstarter campaign is for Flames of Gold, which is up for pre-launch on Kickstarter, which has some lovely beast creatures and a dragonette.
Amazing. S.L.?
Yeah, you can find all my information at slrowland.com. I have signed books in my shop. All my books are available mostly wide, except for the ebooks, but even those are available in libraries. So yeah, and right now I'm working on the book 5 of my Tales of Adria series, where I try to kill a dog.
Steve?
You can find me on Facebook and Threads and Instagram and Blue Sky and probably some other social medias that I can't remember off the top of my head right now because there's so many. You can find all my books on wherever you buy books. If you have a Kindle, or on Amazon, and if you like audiobooks because they're cool, then there are audiobooks available as well. So yeah, wherever you want to find your books is fine with me.
Okay, brilliant. And thank you everybody for coming along. It's been brilliant to talk to you all. I suppose I should say my stuff's all on jhannaford.com, and there are creatures and monsters in pretty much all my books. So yeah. So well done everybody. You've been a brilliant panel. Thank you so much for this.